Wow. I'm a fearful person generally. I'm scared most of the time, and going to college was a challenge because there wasn't a whole lot to be scared of. I had to work with the material I had at hand, and I had to be, inventive. So I was scared of being made fun of in poetry workshop. When I tried to go a little longer range, I was scared of, but what if this is pretty good, but what if I'm not successful after college, And basically, the fear of things not going perfectly. And actually, I was training myself for adult life because these are the kind of fears that a comfortable neurotic person goes around with in adult life. I was getting ready. And that was pretty much the extent of it until one summer, I needed a summer job and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was talking to some guys I knew who had a house up in the mountains where they had two businesses. They sold pot and they gave hang gliding lessons. And this was the 1970s. At the time, that didn't seem like a conflict to me. I thought it was synergy, right? It seemed fine. And they said, well, there's a job you can get. No one can be turned down for this job. Everyone gets this job. I said, what is it? They said, you can be an ice cream man in San Jose. I said, is that true? They said, yeah, you call this number, you go down to the ice cream yard, you're in, you've got the job. I said, that's incredible, that's wonderful. It just seemed great because when I was a little kid, when the ice cream man came around, it was just so nice. They had the little beautiful white truck and they had the silver bells and these chimes, the bells would just kind of waft through the suburb and you try to figure out what block they were coming from and you go find him and you'd chase him down the street and he'd stop and you get like a toasted almond bar. And it was just so nice. They had the Good Humor Man and they had Bungalow Bar, which was, they had this adorable white truck with a peaked roof and the guys were great. And I just thought this will be great. I'll go to San Jose and small children will love me and bored housewives will invite me into their homes in the afternoon and I'm going to have a great time. So I said, well, I'm going to do it. And they said, that's fine, the guys with the house. And they said, if you have any confusion at all, there's a guy named Uncle Fred who's like the king of the ice cream man. He's just the greatest ice cream man ever. And just watch what Uncle Fred does and you'll be fine. I said, great. So I called the number and they basically answered the phone. You're hired. And I went down to the ice cream yard, and I did not get the little white truck with the silver bells. I got this ancient pickup truck that didn't really have brakes, and it really didn't have shocks, and it had this great big ice box, this box in the bed of the pickup truck, which was not bolted down in any way. And you would go in the morning and you'd throw in the dry ice and you'd throw in the ice cream, and you knew that if you ever had an accident where you stopped short, this box was going to come through the cab of the pickup truck and kill you. So death by drumsticks. So now I had a new fear, to work with. I was starting to get into some real fears. And in addition, instead of having the silver bells, I had this music box in the truck, which was this old electronic music box that played Where Oh Where Has My Little Dog Gone over and over. But there was so much feedback and distortion due to the age of this thing. It was like Jimi Hendrix plays Where Oh Where Has My Little Dog Gone at Woodstock. There was feedback 10 hours a day because that's how long you were out there in the thing. So that wasn't too good. But I did get to see Uncle Fred work, which was a great thing because I was out in the truck one day and I saw that his truck was stopped and I went to watch. Uncle Fred was this timeless bebop guy. He was this jazzbo. He was just wonderful. He was the coolest, most serene human being I had ever seen in my life. He had the music box also in his truck, but he had the Stan Getz record going in his head the whole day, so he didn't have a problem. My response to the music box was I played KLIV, which was the top 40 station. Because the truck just had an AM radio, so I'd crank up KLIV. It was a top 40 station, but really they just played the top 6 records that summer. And to this day, when I hear anything that was a hit in the summer of 1972, such as Take Me Home Country Roads by John Denver, or Sweet City Woman by the Stampeders, which has the banjo, I go into fight or flight. I mean, my eyes roll up and it's ghastly what happens if I hear one of those records. Uncle Fred was so cool, and he would stop his truck and the kids would come. Now, the rumor about Uncle Fred was that he was an ex-junkie, and maybe not even ex, and he had a police record, and that's why he had the job of last resort, right, selling ice cream. But he was brilliant at it, because he would stop the truck, and the kids would come running, And he weighed about 90 pounds, and he would just kind of slide down out of his seat like this beautiful reptile, you know, with this tanned, weathered skin. And he'd come down and he'd see the kids, and he'd be like, "Hey, what's happening? You like the fudgesicle." And the kids loved this. The kids were so happy to see Uncle Fred because, you know, they were 7 or 8 years old, and they had no grasp at all of the subculture that had given rise to Uncle Fred, and yet somehow they just got this contact thing where they got it. You know, suddenly they were transported to like the Five Spot or the Coexistence Bagel Shop in about 1958. You know, and they were having an espresso, they were having a fudgesicle, everything was mellow. They were with Uncle Fred. And I tried to be like Uncle Fred. He was my hero, and I couldn't do it because after 6 or 8 hours, you know, I got testy. I would start snapping at the kids would start snapping at me. And it wasn't like the Coexistence Bagel Shop. It was like a family restaurant on a really dysfunctional night. It was bad. And now I had a new fear, which is the fear of not selling enough ice cream, which is very powerful. And it raised a difficult moral quandary because everyone knew that you made the most money in the worst neighborhoods. Because in the nice neighborhoods, which were very enjoyable to drive through, the people there, you know, had thought through the economics on this thing, and they bought the popsicles in a box of 12 at the Safeway, put it in the freezer. They were, you know, another good decision. Whereas in a bad neighborhood, you sit on the stoop all day doing nothing. The ice cream man comes, it's an event, you buy an ice cream. So the money was to be made there, but you had to weigh your fear of not selling enough ice cream against your fear of doing something morally wrong in these neighborhoods and your fear of what might happen to you there. Next to last day of work, not making enough money, not selling enough ice cream, I go into a poor neighborhood. And I'm driving around and a guy waves me down. And he asked if I can make change for a $50 bill. I say, "No, God, I'm really sorry." And I give him a free ice cream, and I get back in the truck, and as I'm getting back in the truck, he jumps in after me, pins me to the seat, puts a knife to my throat and says, "Give me all your money." So I was quite scared, and I gave him all my money, including the change apron that I was wearing, which had about 15 pounds of sticky pennies in it from these kids. And I'm sitting there, and I'm watching this guy try to make a lightning getaway running down the street carrying the 15 pounds of pennies, and he's actually going quite slowly. And I could easily have caught up with him or, you know, run him over or something, but I wasn't into it. I was just watching him go, and I said to myself, you know, the stuff you're afraid of, what people are going to think of you, you know, how are you doing? How are things going to go? That's nonsense. That's not worth being scared of. Being scared is for when the guy has a knife to your throat. And the rest of it is, you know, you're driving yourself nuts. It's just silly. Uncle Fred isn't scared of those things. And that's why he's Uncle Fred and you're you. You know, and just stop it. And I took that knowledge into myself, and I made that part of me, and I began to live that. And that lasted for 3.5 days. And then I got back to normal, and like so many people, for the rest of my life ever since, I've been scared of everything, but especially John Denver. Thank you.